How's it going, y'all? Welcome back to the Gear Vault podcast. This is episode 7, and in today's episode, we are going to be talking about an interesting new release from Barnes, and also going to have a little update on the Savage 7mm Backcountry issue I've been having, as well as talking about kids' first deer rifles, because I just got one, and curious to see what y'all think about it. So that's what we're going to talk about in today's episode. Let's get right into it. All right, so the first thing that I want to talk about is the new ammunition release from Barnes. So Barnes just released what they're calling their reserve line. This is following their release of their Harvest Collection, which Harvest Collection was utilizing less expensive bullets, standard cup and core style bullets. Brought the price of the ammunition down, and I'm sure it's going to be pretty good stuff, kind of geared more towards like the whitetail hunter. That was the inexpensive release. This is the opposite of that. So the Barnes Reserve line is kind of their custom hand-loaded line of ammunition. And a lot of companies do that, like Federal does that. I don't know if Hornady actually does that, but there's a lot of companies that do it, and it's really not that crazy for a company to offer that. Nosler does it as well. What's odd is the cartridge selections that they chose to go with. At least one I'm kind of excited about, but honestly, weird cartridge selection. So I think to start with in this episode, we are going to just go through that. So let me share my screen with you here. So if you're watching this video on YouTube or on Spotify, you'll be able to see what I'm talking about. Otherwise, just go to Barnes' website. I'm not, showing you anything secretive here. It's public information. So, all right. So Barnes' website, we're going to go to ammunition. We're going to go to reserve. We're going to scroll past this video and we get to the cartridges. Now, the first one is the one that I'm excited about, and that's 6.8 Western. Holy crap, Barnes, why didn't you do this freaking 3 years ago when I had a 6.8 Western? My God, like that's the whole reason I sold the gun. Like, honestly, all jokes aside, I think a 6.8 Western is one of the best designs, I guess, like just for what you're getting and the size that you're getting it in, the bullet range that's available to you. I think that 6.8 Western is awesome. Now, I do wish it would have been a 7 Western, I guess. I would like to have the ability to kind of run, 150 to 180. That's the kind of the size bullet I really like. But there's nothing wrong with a 155 LRX. That's going to take down anything in North America, to be honest. And I'm sure the sectional density on that's super good. BC is really good. I think it's like 550. Matter of fact, let me just pop that open because I'm not going to go through every one of these like in super great detail, but this 6.8 Western I do want to open up and take a look. It's kind of cool. They did the like the reloading box is kind of the box it comes in, which again isn't new. Like that's what Nosler does as well. I've got a box of Nosler 35 Whalen over there that comes in a similar box. So yeah, it's 550 on the ballistic coefficient for a G1, 254 for G7. Medium game, big game, yep. Ballistics. So this is going to be 2960 out of the muzzle. I'm guessing that's 24-inch barrel. Still holding 2148 at 500. So it is a pretty ballistically aerodynamic bullet. 16 foot-pounds of energy at the muzzle. You're carrying 1588 at 500, again, out of a 24-inch barrel. And trajectory is, with a 200-yard zero, you are 37 inches low at 500. So, I mean, that should be an awesome round. Now, the downside to all of this is right here, $99.99, $100 a box. Now, this is, it is straight to consumer. They're not doing any like retail outlets. They're going to do, order it from the website. So add to cart. I'm not sure what shipping's going to be. I haven't went that far yet, but these are $100 a box, which is not really ideal. let's go back and look at some of the other options, because again, that one blew my mind that somebody decided to come out with a 6.8 Western load. And not only that, but like a high-end, like good 6.8 Western load. That was the problem the whole time with 6.8 Western was you had Browning and Winchester making the ammunition for it, and they're just not great at making ammunition. It's just the way it is. So I think that's why it didn't take off the way that it should have, but it is what it is. Now, moving on down the line, we only got 6 releases, so stick with me here. 7 SAUM, that's an interesting one. But what's more interesting is they're going to run a 145 grain LRX. I'm sure that the 7 SAUM folks would have probably liked to seen a little bit bigger bullet in there, but that is what it is. We have the Vortex Special, the 300 Super Wisdom with the 212 grain Bore Rider LRX, which is a wild looking little sucker. It's about as much bullet as it is case. You can see it there. That's crazy. 257 Weatherby mag, and again, I would have liked to have been in the meeting when they decided the first 6 cartridges they were going to release with this stuff. Like, one would have thought there would have been 6.5 PRC, 7 PRC, 6.5 Creedmoor, 308. Nope, they're going to go with some off the wall stuff. And on down, we've got 300 SAUM with a 175 grain LRX. That's interesting, I guess. And then 6.5 by 284 Norma with a 127 grain. Like, I just don't understand. And as a matter of fact, I didn't even see these ones are actually more expensive. 115 for the 6.5 by 284, $120 for a box of 300 SAUM. 115 for the 300 Super Wisdom. Jesus. So again, just odd caliber choices or cartridge choices, I guess. I wouldn't have expected that if you just said Barnes is coming out with like a custom loaded line. That most of these would have been the farthest from my estimates. But moving on. Interesting, cool, whatever. Kind of want a 6.8 Western now, but whatever, I guess. That's the other thing is like you're stuck to Browning, Winchester, and a couple of others, but not a lot of like super like just budget, because it's not like I'm going to get a 6.8 Western and keep it forever. I would just like to run this ammunition through it and then sell it, but I don't want to buy like a $500 Winchester XBR that I know is probably not going to shoot that well. I also don't want to spend $1,000 on a, the lowest end Browning that's probably still not going to shoot amazing, and then I'm just going to be selling it. So it is what it is. I wish that honestly, I wish that the Winchester Model 70 Super Grades weren't made in like Portugal. Everything else about them I like. Like, they're good looking rifles, but for some reason I'm just not a fan of spending $1,500 or more on a rifle that's made in Portugal. All right, so a lot of y'all at this point are following along on my issues I've been having with the Savage 7mm Backcountry. So just going to give you a little update. Basically, after my range video kind of popped off, we'll say, had a lot of people commenting and got a lot of views, and honestly, it doesn't look amazing for Savage, and maybe it doesn't look that great for Federal either, but the Savage rifle does not look good in that video. That's just the way it is. Well, lo and behold, let's see, what day was this? July 30th. So on July 30th, which was like roughly a week after posting that video, I get a message from the customer service supervisor at Savage. Said, "Good afternoon. I received your email address as well as information that you were having issues with a 110 Trail Hunter Light. If you can, provide me with your shipping information, yada, 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 as well as serial number. I would be happy to send a FedEx label to you so we can get the firearm in for inspection." Why does that matter? Because the last chick said, send it in on your dime and we'll send it back to you. And if there's an issue, we'll pay to send it back. If there's not an issue, you can pay both ways. I think that was the way it went, but for sure, I had to pay to get it there. Then all of a sudden, now I don't. That just seems strange. I don't know if the video had anything to do with it, but it kind of felt that way, I guess. But in any case, what I did was printed off that label, boxed that thing up, and today it is August 1st. I sent it via FedEx too savage. So they should have it by Monday. I'm hoping that they're going to be forthcoming with the issues that are going on with that thing and kind of let me know exactly what they're doing. It would not be ideal for them to say, here, we fixed it, and then not tell me what they did. I want to know so I can tell you all, because a lot of speculation in that video as to what was happening. Would be sweet to say, hey, this was what was happening, and if you're having similar issues, that's what you can look at. So finally, I do want to talk about kids and deer hunting, or I guess any big game hunting for that matter, maybe even coyote hunting. We'll call it big game hunting for now, though. So rifle cartridge selection for a kid's first rifle. Now, when I was growing up, it was 243 and some 7mm 08, but honestly, 243 was kind of like the main one. Every kid that I knew started out hunting with the 243. A couple of them with the 30-30 actually, but 243 for the most part. Usually it was a Remington 700, ADL, whatever. But 243s, 100 grain core locks. That's what I grew up hunting with as a youngster, and it worked. I remember one bad experience. Actually, the first buck I ever killed, which was like a 4-point that kind of looked like that little guy. But anyway, I did not find that deer the night that I shot it, and best I remember, I made a pretty good shot. Just wasn't any blood. Coyotes found it. I was left with a neck mount, basically. Not ideal for your first buck, but it is what it is. So that was my one bad experience with the 243, but it was also my last experience with the 243 because I was like, this thing's too small. I'm going to get something bigger. And then from that point on, it was like 308 and bigger for basically my entire life. But nowadays, I'm looking at what's available to the younger shooters out there, and it's a little bit more interesting, maybe a little bit more harder to decide, I guess, because you got, I guess the most recently would be 25 Creedmoor. I feel like that's probably a pretty good kid's rifle. Your standard, we'll say 12-year-old boy that's 120 pounds. That's kind of what I would think, 6.5 Creedmoor, 243, 25 Creedmoor. But what I've got is my daughter who is going to try to hunt this year, and she's going to try to take her first deer this year, and she is very timid. She can do pretty much anything once she actually tries, but getting her to try it and not freak out, I guess is the best way to put it, is really, really difficult. And so for her, what I want is least amount of recoil, least amount of noise, and still obviously have a sufficient cartridge to do the job. And so, I did a fair bit of research, I guess, and what I landed on was this rifle laying on the table that you can just barely see the old Leupold golden ring there. Let me pick it up. All right, so this is a Ruger American Gen 2 Ranch in 22 ARC. Now, I feel like most people watching this video is probably familiar with 22 ARC, but if you're not, it's more or less a 6.5 Grendel neck down to 22 caliber. It's super short and stubby with a pretty heavy for caliber 22 bullet tucked in the end of it. Best I can tell, recoil is supposedly in that 2 to 5 pound range, depending on the weight of the rifle itself. This Ranch is probably, I don't know, it's probably 7 pounds with the scope and all the stuff on it. So this might be 4 or 5 pounds of recoil in this thing. Plus, got the 16-inch barrel that's threaded. So my plan is to put a suppressor on it. And so that should tame a little recoil. That should make it a little quieter. I'm really curious to see how this goes. Now, knowing my kids the way I do, I don't know that even if she does at one time, I don't know if she will be that interested in it, at least for the foreseeable future. and she shoots left-handed. So she's actually right eye dominant. No, take that back. She's right-handed, left eye dominant, shoots left-handed. My son is the opposite. He's left-handed, right eye dominant, shoots right-handed. So what did I do? Selfishly, a little bit, I got a right-handed rifle. So my boy, I do believe, will be interested and will want to do it. So this rifle will fit him. And what I told my daughter was, let's try this one time, or this one season. If you enjoy it, I will let you pick out whatever left-handed rifle you want. Just see if you like it. But I assume she's not going to be honest, so I got the right-handed one. That way I don't have to sell a lefty at the end of the season. But 22 ARC, I did the 4.5 to 14 by 40 Leupold VX3. I'm not going to get into the specifics of this rifle. I will do a separate video on this rifle. Just kind of wanted to talk about it and kind of the thought process and what I ended up with. But spoiler alert, the only thing so far that I don't like about it is that mag hanging down. That kind of sucks, and it's really rattly, but is what it is. Just a little bit more on 22 ARC. Do have some ammunition here. Pull it out of the box. This is the Hornady V-Match with their ELD VT. It's like a 62 grain bullet. Probably can't tell a lot from the video, but it is a little guy. It is short, thick, and that bullet is pretty freaking long in there. And basically this VT bullet, I was like re-listening to a Hornady podcast that they did talking about the development of that bullet and this round and everything. And basically the profile of that 62 grain ELD VT is kind of the profile of like a 75 grainer. It just has a hollow cavity, so you get a lot of the flight characteristics of that beefier match grade bullet with the explosiveness that you would want to see in like a varmint round. I also have this 80 grain ELDX, and this is like literally the worst thing about the 22 ARC that I've found so far, and it's pretty similar as the 6 ARC, but ammunition choices are pretty limited. You're basically limited to Hornady. I'm not really looking forward to hunting with an ELDX, but what I'm going to do is do some testing in water jugs at 20 to 50 yards and see. I mean, I know that some bullets are stronger than others, like, proportionately to like speed and weight and everything. So this might be a tougher bullet than some ELDXs. I'm hoping that's the case. I've seen actually good results and like people happy with what they seen from these ELDX out of the 22 ARC on deer. I think the one dude, I can't remember his name right now, but one guy killed a moose with one. I'm pretty sure that's pretty wild. But what I was looking at is I'm like, a lot of 243 loads run an 80 grainer, and there's no reason that a 22 caliber 80 grainer shouldn't be more than enough. And if you got less recoil, then awesome, that much better. I did find one website, and if anyone's actually heard of them or used them and have experience, let me know. But it's a Copper Creek cartridge, or Copper Creek ammunition, something like that. But they've got a whole slew of 22 ARC ammunition, and they actually load the the 77 grain LRX, which super interesting to me because this 80 grain ELDX, I'm guessing by the time it goes through a deer, is probably going to be 50 or 60 grains, but the 77 grain LRX probably going to weigh 77 when it comes out the other side. And honestly, there's probably a lot of like 243 loads out of that 80, maybe even 100 grain options that by the time you recover the bullet, you're probably left with less than 77 grains. So I think a copper bullet in that 75 to 80 grain range for the 22 ARC would be super cool. I've just never heard of this Copper Creek company to know if their stuff is good, if it shoots accurately, and maybe it shoots good in one rifle but not in others. But if you have experience with Copper Creek, let me know in the comment section. I'd be curious to see. Yeah, I think that's everything for this video. Next video should be a little bit of shooting with the 22 ARC, and hopefully, fingers crossed, we're going to have that Savage back, and we're going to know what the heck was going on with it. So if you're watching the video, thanks for watching. If you're listening to it, I appreciate that as well. Follow me on Instagram at The Gear Vault or The Gear Vault Podcast. Keep following me on YouTube. I definitely appreciate it. Till next time, y'all be safe.